Hey art nerds! So today is a big one. First of all, welcome to World Watercolor Month. That is super relevant to what we're talking about today because today we're going to be easily influenced by Charlie O'Shields, who you might better know as Doodlewash or Sketching Stuff. For today's easily influenced, I have his collaboration with Vinci Watercolors, a brand that I really enjoy. And I also have 3 of his books. We have Create Like a Kid Again, and then we have 2 of his activity books, the Sketching Stuff activity books for people of all ages. These are art and drawing focused activity books. I'm also going to be participating in a limited way in World Watercolor Month, following along with some of the prompts. But since you're watching this in mid-July, obviously I didn't do an entire month of daily watercolor prompts, but I'm interested in seeing what you guys have been making. So grab your paints, grab your brushes, and let's be easily influenced by Charlie O. Since World Watercolor Month is around the corner, I wanted to finally dive into Sketching Stuff's Create Like a Kid Again book and his watercolor collaboration with Vinci. As a gig art educator, I frequently teach kids art classes and have amassed a large collection of how to draw books for kids, as well as books on teaching kids how to draw. And then, of course, I also teach adults how to draw, so I have a wealth of how to draw books available for adults as well. I often find myself overthinking and overworking my own art, rather than just diving in and having fun. And I'm hoping How to Create Like a Kid Again will help me connect with the freeness that I've never felt as an artist, because drawing just never came naturally to me. I hope to finish this easily influenced before World Watercolor Month ends. Cross your fingers for me, guys. So today we are easily influenced by Charlie O'Shields. That includes Sketching Stuff as well as Doodlewash. So I have the Sketching Stuff coloring set. This is the watercolor collaboration with Vinci, including the color Charlie O Blue, which is a special Vinci color for him. And then we also have Create Like a Kid Again, creative activity book. What I want to do is I want to do a live flip through of Create Like a Kid Again, not the whole book, but just a general vibe, just a general feel, because like I said, I teach kids and I teach adults, and I have a huge collection of how to draw books that really span the gamut, and I have taught drawing for a long time as well. So I think I might have some valuable insight. Once we get kind of a general feel for it, I will finish reading the book in private and get back to you guys with my thoughts, and then we'll move on to his collaboration. Now I have to say, while I have participated in World Watercolor Month in my own ways, whether I'm creating tutorials to help people paint along, or I am working on my own projects every day for that month, I have never followed the prompts given. It's just not my vibe, and to be honest, for me, creating a watercolor illustration the way I like to paint every single day for a month is already quite a challenge, and I find that it might not be the most accessible goal for every person. Now, you are free to break up an art challenge in whatever way works for you. July is just always kind of a challenging month for me, whether it's battling with the heat here in Louisiana, or battling with hurricanes, or battling with family, or working on my own projects and preparing for convention season. So for me, it just never clicks, but I know a lot of people who do participate in World Watercolor Month, both in an official capacity and a collaborative capacity, as well as in their own way. So I look forward to seeing what people produce in World Watercolor Month, and I look forward to being easily influenced by Charlie O'Shields. I purchased Create Like a Kid Again through, I believe, the Sketching Stuff website, but it might have been through the Doodlewash website. They're all connected, so I may have forgotten. I paid this much for it, and I purchased a year ago, and I have just been busy and not feeling well. The front of the book says Create Like a Kid Again, creative activity book. Boost your natural creativity, recreate with your inner child, master the 6 creative superpowers, over 60 fun exercises, and this is by Charlie O'Shields. The back says that we were all born creative. Sketching stuff. All great ideas start with a notion, a scribbled thought on a page. Whether it's a physical or digital sketchbook, sticky notes, napkins, or a laptop, these thoughts are just the beginning. I think of this wild and whimsical act of dreaming up new concepts as simply sketching stuff. This book was created to help you reconnect with your inner child and reclaim a childlike sense of wonder so you can create bigger and better ideas. From your latest hobby to your current profession, these insights and activities will help boost your natural creativity at any age. We are all born talented and creative people. Remaining that way just takes a bit of practice, so get ready to have a blast as we fill our sketchbooks with wonderful new ideas. It all starts with sketching stuff. Charlie O. So if you guys are new here, hi, I'm Becca Hillburn. I am a watercolor comic artist and art educator. I make the watercolor webcomic 7-inch Kara. So I mentioned this because he said your current profession. My current profession is art educator, illustrator, convention artist, and comic artist. So I am in a very creative field, but I have like a very structured, very formalized way of drawing that can sometimes strip the joy out of what I'm doing because it can become so, it does become very relaxing and kind of like meditative, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I am indulging in creative quirks of fancy. Now, I'll be honest, I have ADHD. I've known this since I was a young child, and I've worked very hard to kind of work on my impulsivity. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm not being impulsive enough. Maybe I'm not following the whim enough. Maybe I'm not leaving myself enough room to get messy and to get creative. And that's actually something that I really like about one of my adult classes is every month with the art lab, we work on different projects. And quite often there's something that I would not have necessarily come up with to do for myself or for this channel. For example, we're painting plant stakes this month, but the fact that this is not necessarily something I would have decided to do of my own volition for just myself, if that makes sense. It gets me out of my wheelhouse. It gets me problem solving. It gets me trying new materials. I mean, we have made sun catchers. We have done fabric painting. We have made door hangers. I've played around with the laser printer. So I find for me, doing crafts and teaching other adults art and teaching kids art can be a great way for me to get out of the sometimes overly rigid ways that I go about drawing. But I'll be real. I disagree with him. We don't all have talent. I don't have talent. I had to learn how to draw from very formulaic methods. That's one of the reasons I'm a big fan of how to draw books is constructive anatomy is why I can draw people. Volumetric drawing is why I can draw basically anything. Having a rote way of understanding perspective and figuring out perspective is why I can draw interiors and exteriors. For some of us, it just doesn't come naturally. Some of us have spatial awareness issues. Some of us have dexterity issues. Some of us have visualizing issues. I actually have no visual memory. I have to reference everything. So I do actually disagree with him on those as someone who lives with those disabilities and is a professional artist. I actually disagree with him on those, but I get the intention and I get why he's trying to encourage people. And I'm not trying to diminish what he's saying. I'm more saying, sorry, Charlie, that's actually not true. But what I'm hoping is that maybe this will help loosen me up. It's kind of laid out sort of like Highlights magazine, you know, very illustrated, which I adore. Lots of small segments, just different ways to kind of break things up. It looks like it's in full color. So it's a very fun looking book. Now, a complaint I have seen online is there are adults looking to get into art who mistakenly think that all art books are for children, and they also mistakenly think that all art instruction on the internet is for children. I don't know why they think that, but you know, I like this. I find this very appealing. Part of my degree was in picture book illustration. Sequential art includes children's books, and I was a member of SCBWI in Nashville for several years. So like, I love this kind of stuff, but I can see how an adult
who already thinks that there are no resources for adults, which is not true, might look at something like this, and because this is so colorful and inviting and cute and playful, they might assume it's not for them. That said, I can think of so many people who, while I personally don't necessarily think this is the only how to draw book an adult might need, I'm looking through it and I think it's actually full of it's kind of like a chicken soup for the soul sort of thing, where it's not necessarily going to teach you everything you need, but it is going to kind of emotionally empower you to start the process, which I think it's a really challenging thing to give to people. It can be hard to know as a teacher how to unlock that in people. It takes vulnerability on your student's part to know how to do that. And I think he tries a lot of different methods to try and unlock that creativity and try and unlock that spark. And I also just love how it's full of this very cute, very whimsical, colorful art. It's very inviting. It makes it fun to look at and fun to read. So, I recognize the hallmarks of self-publishing. No judgment. My 7-inch Cara Volume 1 is also self-published through CreateSpace. So, no. Oh, and so is Curious Little Things, my coloring book, because some of us don't want to wait for a publisher to be on the same page as us, or we want to do something very specific that a publisher won't appreciate. So that kind of brings up a point. This How to Draw book is already very different from a lot of the books that I've reviewed in Easily Influenced. I'm going to grab one. This is an upcoming one. I have not actually reviewed it yet, but I think it's going to be, because it is a Page Street publication, I think it's going to be like all the other Page Street publications. So this is Watercolor Bootcamp by Hannah M. Pickerel. So when it comes to Page Street books, they really love a very particular format. They really love smaller images, so much text, not enough text to go with the images, really one big hero image maybe at the beginning. Downward shots where you actually don't see the artist's hand a whole lot. You can't really see how they're holding the brush. You often have a section at the beginning that explains art materials. Basically, every Page Street book is the same book with just different illustrations, a different artist involved. They have a very formulaic approach to how they like to handle how to make art books, which if you have one Page Street book, unless you're a fan of the artist and you really like their art, you don't necessarily need other Page Street books on that same subject because they do cover the same material over and over again. So a reason to self-publish might be because you have a very specific vision in mind, and sometimes it can be really hard to get these art book publishers to break their mold, to break what works for them and let you kind of do the things you want to do. A few years ago, I was approached by Quattro to do a How to Draw Comics book. And I wanted to do it, but their timeline was crazy short. It was during the pandemic, so I was actually doing a lot of online pickup work, teaching a lot of online classes, doing a lot of live streams, and I was preparing to get married. And I was very honest with them that timeline was not feasible for me to do a start to finish book for them. And they went with somebody else, or they may have scrapped the project. But I would have loved to have done a How to Make Comics book with them, but they weren't really willing to work with me, a human being who has disabilities and has a life. So that might be another reason you as an artist want to self-publish your own art book, is you want to be kind to yourself. You have a vision, you want to do it right, and you don't want to rush it. Another reason might be you want to dive into specific things in a specific way, and the publisher may not understand where you're coming from. Or there are some publishers like Pelican down here in Louisiana. Basically, you're out there. It works almost like self-publishing in that if you're a writer, you may pay towards the publishing cost, and you're responsible for promoting your own books and doing a lot of your own promotion and paying for your own marketing. You may decide it's not worth it to work with a publisher like that because you're already doing everything yourself. Or you may decide you do want to work with a publisher like that, because like I want to pitch my Louisiana food series as a book to Pelican, because that's going to open different doors than I can personally open as an independent small creator. So just because a book is self-published, just because a how-to book is self-published, that is not any real indication of the quality. It may mean that the creator had a very specific vision in mind, a very specific timeline that they're willing to or able to work in, and they didn't want to necessarily spend a lot of time arguing back and forth with a publisher who does things a very specific way. You may also have an audience that isn't, okay, so a lot of these publishers, like Page Street, for example, they're very interested in your Instagram numbers, but you may be an artist who just doesn't have a big Instagram following, but you have a large blog following, or you have a large YouTube following, or your following isn't huge, but they're very dedicated and they're very interested in a book. So you may not have the clout to convince a publisher that tends to work with art influencers. You may not have enough clout to convince them to give you a chance, but you know and believe in your audience, and you know you have that audience there. Or you might be like Proco. In fact, I have the Proco art book. It finally came in. It's sitting on the floor. I really want to talk about it with you guys. I've just been so busy. You may just decide you want to do it yourself and you don't want to work with a publisher, and you have the audience and you're going to kickstart it. So there's a lot of reasons why a very good how to draw book might be self-published. So we flip through this. It kind of also reminds me of Attitude magazine, except it's full of beautiful human-made art and not garbage AI art or AI graphics like Attitude has become. So anyway, it's a very pretty book. I feel like this would be such a good book for like a psychologist's office, just to leave on the table, because it is bright and friendly and inviting and encouraging and inspiring, and drawing is just such a mentally healthy activity. So I can already see. But as you can see, this book is not about how to draw. This is about like embracing your creativity, letting go, trying some new things, and believing in yourself. If you're looking for good books on how to draw, normally I have a list I can rattle off at the top of my head. I have actually talked about some of my favorite how to draw books here on the channel, but they're a few years old. And last year I taught a couple of 6-week back-to-back classes to a group of kids from the age of 10 to the age of 16. And I decided to teach myself how to teach kids how to draw all over again. I have actually I've student taught at a inner city elementary school, and I taught at a charter school, and I have taught at a middle school, and I have taught at a high school, and I have taught at a college. But it'd been a long time, and I kind of wanted to brush up on those how to teach drawing basic skills. And to circle back to the adults who think that there are no how to draw resources for adults, for beginner adults, again, that is not true. But some of my favorite resources that explain it clearly and simply and are not condescending are some of the really good quality children's how to draw books. Maybe it's time to get over yourself. Maybe if you're a beginner, you're a beginner. And I do want to, if you guys are interested, I will do a video where I talk about some of my favorite how to draw books for actual beginners, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, and why I like those books in case you're teaching yourself how to draw at home from books, which absolutely no shame. I am very much on board with you learning how to draw however you want to learn how to draw. I learned how to draw initially from resources from the internet. So the famous artist course, the famous cartoonist course, the Andrew Loomis books, the Byrne Hogarth books, all of those were out of print at the time, and so they were being shared as PDFs. And that's kind of where I first learned how to draw. So I think good how to draw books and books that are good at encouraging you to draw are really important. So I want to spend some time with Charlie O'Shields, create like a kid again, and get back to you with some of my thoughts. This is Charlie O'Shields, aka Sketching Stuff's Create Like a Kid Again. It was first published in 2022. This is a self-published book. I purchased it on Amazon, and this is how much I paid for it. This book promises over 60 fun exercises. This is a very cheerful and encouraging book. I love how colorful and full of art this book is. It reminds me of highlights and makes me excited to read it, so kudos on the design. He really tries to get us iterating. This is wonderful and a really important skill for writing illustration and comics, and it's not covered often enough. He also encourages storytelling, which as a comic artist, I wholeheartedly advocate and don't see enough in how to make art books. That said, these exercises take time and a quiet space so that you can concentrate. A lot of this is about exercising your imagination, which is great. This would be so refreshing for someone with art block but free time, or someone who needs an engaging and imaginative art instruction book. I can see this book being great for teens too. I really do love how he tries to get the reader to imagine and think for themselves, to come up with wild ideas. This would be a great summer workbook. Pick a prompt or two each day. There's also an entire section on building empathy and depicting it in writing and art, exercises that are useful far beyond just learning how to draw. This really isn't just a drawing book, but a thinking book. It's a great way to get out of a rut, and it would be fun for a class. And you don't have to do most of these in any particular order in order to see benefit. A lot of art instruction doesn't really cover creativity, but this book does that in spades. This book is absolutely charming and so kind-hearted. The illustrations are a joy. I do want to point out this is not a how to draw book. This book does not cover how to draw things. It's not going to teach you perspective. It's not going to teach you how to do the grid method. But he does have other art resources, sketching stuff and Doodlewash, and both of those are online. This book is a fun, inviting, colorful art inspiration book that's perfect for adults and kids. While this book won't teach you how to draw, it inspires you to think, see, and storytell. And I really have to say, as someone who has reviewed so many art instruction books, these kind of books are actually pretty rare. You have your choice. You have a plethora of books that will teach you perspective, that will teach you how to draw people, that will teach you how to draw animals and how to draw nature. But it's rare to find books that actually teach you how to think like an artist and teach you how to actually find and nurture that creativity. So that's one of the reasons I really recommend this book. And I think if you're watching this video, you will definitely enjoy this book as well. I can definitely see this being a fantastic fit for parents who would like to draw and would like to draw along with their kids, who are looking for fun summer activities that are very not only engaging, but just community building. I mean, this book is a knock out of the park. With the sketching stuff website. So these were the books that I was telling you guys about. This might be 100% up your alley. Look, when I buy workbooks, I tend not to do the workbooks. So it's just not necessarily a thing for me. There is also a newsletter. So if you enjoyed Create Like a Kid Again, you can definitely get more of that. I was kind of hoping that he would have like a more 1, 2, 3 draw along book or a watercolor book. And it's fine that he doesn't. That was just me kind of hoping for that. His art is so colorful, so charming, very animal focused. It's really quite adorable. It's definitely the sort of art that would bring a smile to your face. He also has a podcast. if you're a podcast person. I know a lot of us are. We like to listen to things while we're working. So this could definitely be a good way to have a little bit of company while you're working and also some inspiration. So not only are his books for sale, which it seems like many of them are self-published, and I love that. You can definitely tell when it is a labor of love, and Create Like a Kid again felt like a labor of love. It was beautifully designed. It's a dense little book. There's a lot in there. But it was color coordinated and fairly easy to follow. I really enjoyed it. So he has books, he has art. And it seems like you can buy both prints as well. These may just be prints, since he has size options for this. And if it was the original, you wouldn't have size options. So we're also going to be talking about the Sketching Stuff coloring set. This set here, actually, I did actually start out with the sample set here. However, I love Da Vinci watercolors. They are definitely going to get used. And I think I have an idea for how I want to test this out. So I have historically not done World Watercolor Month because I can't juggle my existing workload and also an additional watercolor illustration every day. When I do inking in October, I plan ahead of time for that for months. That takes some work to be able to do that. And I just can't do that in July the way I've kind of organized my time to do it in October. But this year, I was thinking it would be a really fun idea to do a few of the prompts from that list and do them as ATCs, so on a smaller format, and use the Sketching Stuff paints. So I might do 3 or 4 of those, just, trying to kind of get out of my own head and trying to get out of my own comfort zone. And I'm going to use this as a chance to click on the Doodlewash link. And Doodlewash is more of like a traditional blog with lots and lots and lots of illustrations. I really, I pump out a lot of work, but I really admire that he is able to write like this and produce art like this. Being able to be organized like that I used to be able to do this in Nashville when I had the Natto Soup blog, but then I moved back to Louisiana and family and health have just completely consumed all of my time. But I have a lot of respect for people who are able to do things like this and share them every day. And so it's not just his art, there's also book reviews. So, if you guys are ever looking for like a counter opinion to some of my easily influenced reviews, you could probably check Doodlewash. He seems like he's a nicer person than I am. So, I feel like you'd probably get a different viewpoint. And I honestly, when it comes to reviews, I always recommend you double check. So there's the blog, there's stories, art supply reviews, book reviews, tutorials. Then he also brings on guest artists. And then there's also challenges, like there was a June 2026 art challenge, and then there's World Watercolor Month, which is coming up in July. He also has quite a community built around what he does. Okay. It's a little bit different, but not totally different from the other one. There's just a little bit more here. And apparently there are Sketching Stuff activity books. But if you're looking for art community, he's got the World Watercolor group on Facebook. Okay, so this might be more of the how to draw sort of stuff. So I will probably be revisiting this. Since I did mention I was looking for something, I really enjoy Create Like a Kid again. This is going to be probably a resource that I bring into some of my classroom settings because I'm always looking for ways to get people to draw, ways to get people to loosen up, icebreakers and things to kind of help get people going. And that's one of the reasons I have such a large collection of art books, is I'm always looking for drawing exercises and warm-up exercises and thinking exercises to kind of help with a variety of skills. So Create Like a Kid again is a wonderful resource for that. But I did want to see how he would handle more traditional step 1, step 2, step 3 sort of tutorials. So I am definitely going to be revisiting the activity books. And I think that covers everything for the most part, other than us talking about World Watercolor Month. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably heard about World Watercolor Month. And it's kind of a month-long challenge. And he does a lot of giveaways. And apparently we can tag anything that uses watercolor. I used to do that so I would specifically create tutorials to help support World Watercolor Month in the past. But I never really knew if we were allowed to tag it like that or not. So it is nice to know. I mean, it's just something to celebrate watercolor, and I think that's really awesome. I believe there is an official prompt list, although of course you don't have to do the official prompt list if you don't want to. Oh, snap. It's the 10th anniversary because it started in 2016. And obviously I'm kind of browsing through this very quickly because you guys can, oh snap, I clicked away. I wanted to bring up the prompt list and I was about to get to it. But anyway, you can definitely look this up yourselves as well. In fact, I really encourage you to. So you don't have to do it every day either. And this year's prompts are unplugged language retreat, midair, poetry, hope, path, smoky, aged, whimsical, off-key, strike, spicy, edible, powdery, pickle, abrupt, diabolical, captive, sedimentary, plaid, cardboard, pointed snack, halfway, travel, wedding, blend, neglected, greenhouse, and tower. And then he also lists previous year's prompts in case any of those are more inspiring, or you could pick and mix if you want. Like I said, I think for the challenge part of this, I'm going to pick a few of these and do them maybe as ATCs or in a smaller format. And that should maybe make it less doable, and maybe I'll be less likely to overwork it. But I'm already seeing several words that I'm like, oh, I have an idea for what I would want to do for that. And I might be a little too literal with some of these, but it would, if it makes it easier for me to participate. And then another big element of World Watercolor Month is the giveaways and the sponsors. And I think they do, if I remember, it's not a giveaway every day, but there's a lot of giveaways. And it's nice art supplies, as you guys can see. There's some quality brands in here. And they also have several guest artists, it's nice. It's always nice to see. Oh, hey, I literally just showed you guys the Hannah Pickerel book. So this can be a wonderful way to find out about other artists. Can be a wonderful way to find additional inspiration. A lot of ambassador artists too. All right, so we've kind of taken a look at Charlie O'Shields, sketching stuff, Doodlewash, and World Watercolor Month. Now let's take a look at the watercolors. Okay, so this is not in keeping with how I think most people do World Watercolor Month, but the way I do inking in October is I write my own prompt list and I start idea generating ahead of time. So I have some idea. I'm not doing the whole month, but I have some ideas. So for midair, I have a rat eating a seed, kind of floating. For hope, I have a kid blowing a dandelion puff. Some people call these wish flowers, but to me that always kind of implies hope. You hope something good will happen. For whimsical, I have a little kid just kind of like dancing, and I'm going to refine these obviously. For off key, I have a kid singing, and then there's like a glass cracking in the background. For aged, of course, I thought of cheddar. For spicy, I thought of Tabasco and Tabasco peppers. I'm not worried about ideating too much here because I'm gonna try to do this and my regular workload. So fingers crossed. For edible, I have like what's it called? Soft serve. My brain wanted to say snowball. It's not a snowball. For pickle, I had two ideas. We have a straightforward pickle, and then I thought it might be fun to paint a jar of Giardia mix or like olive mix, because I just did an illustration for Muffalata for my Louisiana food series, so my brain's already kind of in that direction. For plaid, I was thinking of just doing a wet over dry study. For snack, I was thinking of painting a tiny club sandwich with an olive sticking out of it. For wedding, I was thinking about doing a wedding cupcake. I love painting food. For greenhouse, I was referencing an older idea I did in Lilliputian Living, where you can actually turn like milk jugs into greenhouses. So doing like a little illustration of that. And then for tower, I was thinking of doing something like really whimsical, like a fantasy tower that just goes up into forever. So let me show you the materials I was thinking about using for that. So originally, I was thinking I could do them as ATCs with the goal of maybe leaving them for people to find. But I also had this Meeden tiny watercolor squares, or almost squares. I think they're like barely rectangles. Anyway, I had these come in today, so this could also be a fun way to do mini illustrations. I also have watercolor postcards of a few different types. And I always have like watercolor bookmarks. But I also have this watercolor paper I bought at Kinokuniya, and I have these shikishi boards. So I have some cute, fun little options that I can try doing these on. And my hope is that it's small enough that I will finish it in addition to the other things that I'm doing. The problem is I have one work desk. So I may have to like have a clipboard or something. I'll figure it out. I'll see how many I do. I'm gonna end up doubling up because I want this video to come out earlier in July rather than later in July, because if it is inspirational and gets people drawing or painting, that would be fantastic. So speaking of the painting, I told you guys I ordered the Sketching Stuff coloring set a while back. This is their dots if you just want to try it. But, you know, I knew this wasn't going to be really enough for me to paint something big. It was what I was thinking, but now I'm thinking many little things. So I went ahead and I purchased the Sketching Stuff palette because I love Da Vinci watercolors. I use them pretty frequently. So this is something that would get used. Of course, I'm going to have trouble opening it. If you guys are not familiar, Da Vinci is an American-made watercolor company, so it's made in the U.S. Oh, it comes in like a pretty custom palette. How cute. Usually Da Vinci comes in like a gray palette, but this is a really pretty powder blue palette. Or white. I guess it's white. It just looks powder blue to me, but it's like the same color as the interior. And then we have our beautiful and adorable hand-poured paints. And then Charlie O Blue is like a specialty color, and it's a really pretty color. So I thought I would get a tube of that as well, because that might be something that I choose to work into my daily driver watercolor palette. We also received an instruction card on just like what the colors are in here, the pigment information, and then how to do a few different mixes. So before I start painting, I do want to swatch these. This is my Artex Cotton Rag Watercolor Sketchbook. I'm just gonna flip through it so you guys can see. I've done some stuff in it. It's just a good size for this. Normally I would swatch everything on Blick, but I have talked about Da Vinci a few times here. It's a brand I know and like, so I really just want to like give you guys an idea of what these colors look like on watercolor paper. Now, my experience with Da Vinci is they're pretty hydrophilic. They are very quick to absorb water. So I'm actually not going to pre-activate these because I don't want them to turn soupy. I'm going to go by the artist names because most of that's what y'all are going to know. Quinacridone red, vermilion hue, terracotta, Hansa yellow medium, yellow ochre, gold ochre, ultramarine green shade, Charlie-O blue, indigo, benzimita orange, opus or vivid pink, and leaf green. So it's a very fun, saturated, almost cartoon-esque palette of colors. The colors are bright, they are fun, they are poppy. It will be interesting to see how they mix. It muddied the water somewhat because we do have some colors like terracotta, yellow ochre, Charlie-O blue that definitely have some opacity to them. But in general, they're very pretty and fun. We were able to get some nice secondary mixes. Some of these are pretty unusual colors, so I feel like the color selection is pretty solid. You do need to know a little bit of color theory to kind of get you where you want to go. Like if you want a darker brown, you would mix terracotta and ultramarine, or terracotta and this indigo color here, for example. But I think the color selection is in general pretty balanced. The only thing I might do differently if it were me is I might swap out this for, I don't know, like a cool phthalo blue maybe, but even that is not, you know, a for sure. maybe instead of a terracotta, I would have gone with a burnt umber just because they're a little less granulating, but honestly, they're pretty similar. Burnt umber just has kind of a cleaner, less granulation, so it can be useful for skin tones. But I mean, that's a beautiful terracotta. So I'm going to allow my, this is going to be my optical blending test. I'm going to allow it to dry and get back to you guys. And I'm sorry, y'all. I'm like struggling with a headache today. I get them a lot, to be honest. But I definitely wanted to dive into Charlie O'Shields and sketching stuff and Doodlewash as soon as I could. So, you know, you just have to bear with me. I'm disabled. I'm doing my best over here. You can glaze with these. Some of these are definitely more opaque by design than others. And I did it kind of sloppy, so we have a lot of like colors merging together, which is it's pretty to look at, but it makes it harder to tell. Had a little bit of reactivation, maybe not too much. And I'd let it dry for about an hour. But I know from experience with Da Vinci that in general, you can glaze these colors, particularly the more transparent ones. I decided to record and include the challenges that I chose to do. I kind of picked and mixed, chose which ones that spoke to me, and I did not attempt to finish out the whole month. I kind of just wanted a feel for what it might be like doing World Watercolor Month challenges every day. So I did about a week or so of this while also just doing my regular life. So I'm also working while doing this challenge, class prep, teaching, painting, and I do have limited workspace, so adding in watercolor challenges can be kind of frustrating and does somewhat trigger my anxiety. I found that it was always just best for me to start with the challenge, go ahead and get it finished, and then focus on the rest of my work for the rest of the day. Otherwise, it was going to bother me in the same way having an appointment at 3 o'clock in the afternoon kind of wrecks my whole day until I finish that appointment. Those who know, you guys know, this is one of the reasons I personally have some trouble with these kind of challenges. If I had a separate workspace where I could kind of do these things, it might not be so bad. But as it is, in order to have room to paint, I sometimes have to clear off my entire desk to have that room. I did try to work around an existing project that I was working on at the same time, my Militant illustration, and it just doesn't leave a whole lot of room on a small desk. I'm also working ahead of time so I can release this video in a timely fashion, so that does also pile on the stress because we were leaving for a family vacation early in July and there was no way I wanted to be juggling both. The paints are lovely and I'm mostly able to mix everything I need with the selection at hand. The brights, green, orange, aqua, blue are a fun addition that makes everything feel kind of cartoony, and I love it. I'm always a fan of Da Vinci Paints. They make some lovely watercolors. This also gave me a chance to try out a few different papers. As you guys will see in a moment, I found that I really like Strathmore's 500 series cotton rag, which is something that I've had lying around for a while. Another thing is I've actually written the notes for this review a few times. I write my notes in Notepad. I know, that's stupid to do. And we've had multiple serious storms roll through my area, and my battery backup just happened to decide this is the week to die. So I've had to write my notes several times over. I decided to include what I would call some ugly footage to really kind of demonstrate how I'm trying to do both my regular illustration work while also participating in World Watercolor Month. These kind of challenges can be so tempting for us artists because it's a chance to participate in a hashtag. It's another chance to get new eyes and new fans on our work. It's a chance to be part of something. But for many of us who don't really know how to prioritize our time very well, and everything feels like a bright flaming red priority, it can really just kind of cause additional stress, and it can be challenging to work around, and not in a growth challenging way, but in a stressful challenging way. I actually wrote a Patreon post, and it was mostly joking. I was making fun of myself. I was making fun of my own shortcomings in being able to edit and being able to juggle things and being able to prioritize things. Don't worry, guys. I promise I'm not burning myself out. I'm trying to be very careful about that. But it's mostly a joke about participating in World Watercolor Month and not knowing how to like say no and not knowing how not to pile more projects on. I'll try to remember to link that for you guys. Again, it's mostly a joke. I promise I'm trying to take care of myself and take breaks and not push myself too hard. But it is something that a lot of artists will do because many of us feel like we're never good enough and nothing will ever be enough to get us where we want to go. And we're very tempted to just pile on more and more projects. And I kind of wanted to bring this up because challenges can be kind of a crux point for that, a flash point for that. And it's something that some of us have to be really careful about before we decide to just dive in and participate in challenges. Let me know if you also struggle with this down in the comments below. Please tell me I'm not alone in this. So these are the 2 Sketching Stuff activity books, Food and Nature. They arrived from Amazon. That's why they're a little bit beaten up. So it says activity book. I wanted to do a little bit of a live flip through this with you guys. And then I'm going to do the same thing I normally do now, where we flip through it and I narrate on top of it. So it looks like it promises sketching, how he sketches, coloring fun, except this paper is not, it's a coated paper, so it's not going to be great for coloring. And then it includes space for exercises, which, I'll be real, if you have a sketchbook, you don't need the space. That just like fills up space in the book. Now, I do actually appreciate that he has exercises on actually looking and noticing things. This is so important. It is a skill that I try to teach my students in these kind of classes, but it can be a challenging thing to teach. And it's a skill that you can hone at any point in time just by going for walks and noticing things. And then also teaching readers how to like notice the major basic shapes. This is actually one of the methods that I frequently teach when I'm teaching drawing classes. So this is adorable. First of all of his books are just so cute and approachable. I love how colorful and bright and appealing it is. It has a toyetic quality to it. Now, I love toyetic things. I was a big fan of happy planners when I was still doing traditional planning using a planner. I love colorful washi tapes. I love colorful highlighters. I love color. I love patterns. I don't assume toyetic things are for children. I assume toyetic things are fun. That said, I mentioned earlier in this review that there are people who lament. They firmly believe, they are misinformed. They believe that there's no art books for beginner adult artists. And I'm wondering if they look at a beautiful and approachable book like this and assume that it's not for them. Now, I would not say this book is just for adults. I would say this book is for anybody who ages 12 and up maybe even under 12. But I appreciate that he actually credited where the photos came from. That's a big deal. That's really important. Anyway, beautiful book, self-published book. Good on him. That's really cool. That allowed him to make the kind of book he wanted to make. And I know that can be a struggle sometimes. We talked about that earlier. I love that he covers a lot of basic art techniques, art skills, art exercises in a really fun, inviting, and appealing way. I feel like these books could be fantastic for a waiting room. Look, and I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean that it's very approachable, it's very appealing, it's very colorful. We do kind of copy ourselves, I think, for some of these things. Okay, we're starting to differentiate. So not too many pages were an exact copy of the other. But what I mean by this is you could just pick it up and noodle around with it while you were waiting. And it would honestly be really cool to see a bunch of different people of a bunch of different ages take a crack at these books and then be filled in by so many different people. That could be really fun, especially like in like a pediatrician or an orthodontist waiting room. These could be really cool. Now, part of the problem is I think that as an art teacher, as an artist, as somebody with a formal art education, I do think these books can be a great tool to get you drawing, to get you making art. But I have not been a beginner artist in a really, really, really long time. So it's hard for me to look at this from beginner eyes and tell you whether or not, if I were a beginner, I would buy these books, I would be drawn to these books, or if I would let my pride and hubris get in the way and trip me up and keep me from a really good thing. But these both look super fun. They are extremely cute. I don't love the paper in these books because there's full color printing and it did a beautiful job of it. It is a coated paper and that is not fun to draw on. So my recommendation would be have a sketchbook handy for the exercises that can be transposed easily into a sketchbook. But I do appreciate that he includes the templates so you're not fighting with, blank page, making you overthink things and stressing you out. I also appreciate that he includes the grids so you don't have to go ahead and grid that out. These are the Sketching Stuff activity books. These were both purchased on Amazon. I paid this much for them. I purchased nature and I purchased food, two things I love to draw. These are for people of all ages, and it promises that you're going to scribble, doodle, and color. I'm going to start with nature. So this is probably amazing for my ADHD mama friends who have errands to run and want something to noodle around with that's creative while their kids are doing swim lessons. By the way, shout out to my own mom for crocheting while I was in swim lessons. That always left a positive impact on me because she made awesome things and it showed me that she had a life of her own and that it would be okay for me as an adult woman to have a life of her own. So this book is based on the idea that everyone can sketch, and I love this. Yes, you absolutely can. This was published by Doodlewash Books, so this is his publishing arm. I also love that. I really liked his other book, so I'm excited for these. And these were published in 2019. This is pitched as an activity book, not a technical book. So it's not here necessarily to teach you how to draw, but you guys can see there are a lot of drawing exercises in here. This is a great way to make creative drawing warm-ups, or daily drawing fun and accessible. He does have some recs on what you're going to need for this book, and I would also suggest a sketchbook because the paper in this book is coated and it's not that fun to draw or color on. Both books start off the same, so what I'm going to say relates to both. There is a section about sketching, a section about sketching things, a section about coloring, a section about scribbling, doodling, and coloring. I think most artists don't need this, but I haven't not been an artist since, okay, what I mean by this is like, I've been an artist for most of my life. I don't necessarily need sections like that, But let me know if you guys find those kind of sections to be helpful. They're short, so I don't feel like they're taking up unnecessary space, and maybe someone who is newer to art might find it to be more encouraging. So generally, these are easy, approachable exercises that build muscle memory and skills. Some may look silly like scribbling, but I promise as an art teacher, these are genuinely useful activities and warm-ups. He provides a large demo that you could doodle on top of and further flesh out, and then an area for you to draw. I feel like this is a very approachable way to encourage people who might be shy to just give it a shot. There are beautiful, colorful illustrations for the Spot the Difference section, and this brings me back to highlights. I loved highlights and dreamed of working for highlights or Cricut for a long time. There's also exercises on seeing shapes in complex objects and exercises on drawing textures with a theme. Sometimes he gives us an outline to start with, like nature on page 29, to remove blank page issues. As I mentioned earlier, these are all super common drawing warm-ups and exercises. I covered these myself in my drawing fundamental courses here on YouTube, but he has provided the grids, he's provided the references, he's provided the paper. So this is a very portable way to get your drawing fundamentals in. I feel like these books make these exercises super accessible, which may make it easier for folks with issues starting things like my fellow ADHD friends for us to get started. Honestly, I think this would be a fantastic resource for middle school art teachers. Everything is broken down in a very easy and fun way. In a way, I'm a little less enthused about his color section, mainly because the paper in this book is terrible for actually coloring things. The back of the book includes more fleshed out projects and ends with a prompt list. The food book is very similar, but includes exercises like drawing your meals, doodling bowls, and doodling tables. A lot of the meat itself is exactly the same, but the photos, images are all different and themed around food. So honestly, I can see value in buying both books because you're reinforcing important themes and you're actually learning how to draw the things mentioned in the books. The back of the food book includes exercises on painting metal and painting glass, which can be challenging for a lot of people. Both books are adorable and approachable, full of beautiful color illustrations and whimsy. It's clear Charlie knows how to teach art fundamentals, and I find both books to be a delight. I think if you can embrace your inner child, a necessary skill for artists, anyone of any age can enjoy these books. And I think these will be a wonderful resource for future classes. My friends who teach traditional K through 12 art classes, I really think these books would be a knockout for your classes and would make it much easier to get some concepts across. So I highly recommend them, especially my homeschool teaching friends. Y'all got to get on these books. If you're interested in drawing more and struggle to motivate yourself, these books might be just what you need. I highly recommend the Sketching Stuff activity books. I think they are a charming way to get your drawing fundamentals in and to practice your art skills. So it is July 6th. I'm going to call it for doing the World Watercolor Month prompts for a couple of reasons. One, we're getting ready to go on a family vacation, and it's just not going to be feasible for me to work on this. Two, because I've already kind of gotten the value out of it, I think, for this year, and I'll explain that in a little bit. And three, because I am finding it very stressful trying to juggle my regular work, whether it's watercolor illustrations like I showed you guys, or teaching or editing video, etc., with also doing this. I only have one desk that I can really work at. So I am going to call it for now. I wanted to show you guys what I did and kind of talk to you guys about it. This was the last day that I did wedding, but I ended up having a bunch of ideas for like different watercolor cards that I want to do with like limited text on them. So that's one of the reasons I'm actually calling it now, is because I'd actually prefer to switch focus to something very similar, but something that that I can, you know, maybe turn into a series of cards and sell. And I realized like the point of World Watercolor Month is not to like, let's extract value, let's do a capitalism. I get that, but I am just kind of always trying to find things that will resonate with people, that people will like, that people are willing to spend money on. And I think I've like found something that I enjoy doing that people might be interested in. So if I am going to stress myself out doing double work, I would rather it be on this than on the prompts. And you know, that kind of tracks for me because historically I've always written my own prompt lists for everything except for Mermaid and Magical Girl March. I've written my own prompt lists. I've kind of explored my own ideas. This is unusual for me to work with somebody else's prompt list. Usually I don't know, I got to do my own thing. So I'm going to be switching focus over to that. Another thing that I kind of extracted value from is, so for the beginning of World Watercolor Month, my plan was to always use this palette. And I actually do really like this palette, although mixing colors, especially blacks and browns and Payne's grays, do take more effort. And I found that I actually hate using the mixing surfaces, and I enjoyed it so much more when I started just using small ceramic palettes, which is what I'm used to anyway, but I did want to give this like a valid shot. But originally I was going to do everything on Strathmore ATCs. And then I was like, well, this is a good opportunity to test out some papers that I have that are watercolor papers that I might not make time to test out. And then I kind of was just like, well, I'm just going to kind of go with whatever suits the theme. So I have like a bookmark, I have some ATCs, and I have like a page in this Artex watercolor sketchbook. And that's how I kind of fell upon the Strathmore 500 series ready cut paper. I've had it for a while, and it just is like perfect for what I want to do here. So that's another reason I'm already kind of like switching my subject matter, switching my focus, because I think I just found like a combination I really like and that I would rather focus on for now. And it's not really just about the money. It's really more about like, I'm just having fun doing these. There's a little bit of hand lettering, which is something I always struggle with, but it's been working out for now. There's a lot of food art in here. It's a lot of local stuff. It's just kind of a combination that I find myself really enjoying and that I would rather explore. And I think that might be kind of the point of this, is to find things you like, to try out a bunch of different subject matter, to try out different materials, and find stuff that you like that you would want to bring into your further practice. I think that's the point for existing watercolor artists, and to get out of their comfort zones. And then for newer watercolor artists, it's just to paint. It doesn't matter if it's bad. You just need to paint. So I'm happy I did this. I don't mean to complain. Nobody told me to do this. Nobody, you know, held a gun to my head or anything like that and said you have to participate in World Watercolor Month or you're a bad artist. This was entirely of my own volition. And, you know, once you've gotten what you want to get out of it, you can also check out. So I look forward to finishing up some of my other little ideas. I think these are really, really cute, and I'm looking forward to playing with them more. I will probably continue to use this Da Vinci palette for this because it's worked so far, and there is a charm to working with a limited palette. So, but I just kind of wanted to like check in with you guys, because for me, this is going to be it for doing the World Watercolor Month prompts. I enjoyed them. I do think there's a variety of ways you can do this to make it work for you. And I do think it's something that is worth trying if you have the time and the energy. I mean, sometimes that's just not really a feasible thing. I, in general, love these paints. I would maybe add personally, I might add a black to this and a little tube of white gouache. or even like a premixed Payne's gray or a darker brown. So I might add a few Paynes, and maybe I will do that. Payne's pans. Maybe I'll do that. It's a cute little mixing palette. It's got really bright, fun, colorful, cartoony colors, which you can tell I really like. They feel very spring and summer. They feel very inviting. Some of the colors have like a really gouache, like a nice heavy coverage aspect to them. You guys can see I kept using Charlie O Blue. It's a beautiful color. It's really fun to work with. And it's just kind of like a friendly color as well. So I found in general the colors in this palette to be really inspiring. I really like Da Vinci watercolors. If you're looking to buy an American brand, I have used Da Vinci watercolors for a long time and I really like them. I also really like Core, but like Da Vinci offers like an opacity to them, a richness to them, a coverage that I really like, and it works really well for this kind of illustration that isn't necessarily overworked or over fussed. So I really enjoyed that. So we're almost finished with the Charlie O. Easily influenced, the Doodle Wash, the World Watercolor Month, the sketching stuff. I'm so sorry. I don't know why my brain is doing this to me. We're almost finished. I will go see you, like literally go see you guys out in my great room, and we can kind of sum everything up.
I really enjoyed this easily influenced. You know, I want to be careful how I say this because I'm not looking to hurt anybody's feelings, but there are some easily influenced where I'm just blown away, where the books are great, where the products are great. The Jeannie Dixon, May Marie, and her book is an example where like the entirety of it was just knocked out of the park. A great collaboration, a great book, easy for me to recommend, both art that I really enjoy. And today's easily influenced was exactly that. It was much needed. It was very much in the sweet spot. I really enjoy all three of his books. I think my favorite is Create Like a Kid Again, but honestly, I love all three. I am looking forward to allowing these three books to inspire me in how I teach my classes and inspiring me in some of the exercises that I do. I will point out, if you're looking for a video version very similar to this, I do have a How to Draw Anything series and a Drawing Fundamental series. And the Drawing Fundamental series is very similar in terms of the kind of exercises we introduce to Create Like a Kid Again. Again, I'm not suggesting we copied one another. I'm simply suggesting that we were inspired by similar material and that we might have similar backgrounds in some of these aspects. And I'm only recommending it because I think it's a great series. It's one that I have not really promoted a whole lot because drawing tutorials of mine don't do well here on YouTube, but I'm very proud of it and I worked really hard on it, and I would love it if you guys would check it out. It'll be in the cards and it'll also be in the description below, so you can watch that after you finish this. But I really enjoyed Create Like a Kid Again. If you are burnt out, if you've got art block, if you're struggling to get yourself on your drawing journey, if you're a parent with a kiddo to entertain this summer, all kinds of people would really enjoy this book. I highly recommend you check it out. I also recommend that you consider filling out a library request form and asking your library to get a hold of this book, because I think this is a really great resource. Is it going to teach you how to draw? No, and that's not its intention at all. Its intention is to get you to loosen up, to have some fun, and to think creatively. And I don't think enough art books do that. I think it is genuinely offering something unique. One of the big go-to adult art books is Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, which I have read 3 times, and I'm not bragging when I say that. I read it in, I want to say 2006, when it was first recommended to me via the internet. I read it again in 2009 as I was graduating from college, and then I read it in 2013. And I've never resonated with Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. I always felt like it was kind of stuffy and it wasn't necessarily very fun for me, and it never hit. Now, to contrast that, I have read the Andrew Loomis books and drawn along with the Andrew Loomis books and enjoyed the Andrew Loomis books. So it's just simply how my brain works, how my brain likes to learn. I would counter that if you have tried drawing on the right side of the brain and you're struggling with it, it's boring to you, it's not fun for you, the exercises are hard to understand or they're not engaging, and you want to learn how to draw, I would recommend you start with this book to help get the ideas flowing, to help get the confidence going, to help you have fun with drawing again. I really recommend this book, and I am so glad that I finally read through it. I think it is a fantastic resource, and I'm glad that somebody has put this out into the world. And quite frankly, while I have been familiar with sketching stuff in Doodlewash for years, I used to be a big art blog reader back when feed readers made that so much easier to keep up with. I don't hear enough people talking about this book, and I don't hear enough art people talking about this book. So I guess that will be me, but I really enjoyed it. I think he did a great job, and honestly, you can tell that he was an art director and AD because the book is very dense but laid out beautifully, and it's got all, look, I could gush about this book. I really enjoyed it, and I think you guys might enjoy it too. So I highly recommend you check this one out. As for the activity books, they are very similar to Create Like a Kid Again, except maybe a little bit more directed in the exercises, maybe a little bit slower paced. This is great, again, if drawing on the right side of the brain just didn't do it for you. This breaks things down in a very fun and easy to understand way. Both of these activity books are very similar in that they have the same kinds of exercises, but they are both heavily themed to the subject matter, whether it is nature or food. So honestly, if you enjoy drawing nature and food, get both. I can see you enjoying both. But I highly recommend all three of these books, especially if you have someone in your life that you want to draw with. If you're teaching someone to draw, whether it's an adult or a child, these activity books can be a wonderful resource. It really blew me out of the water. And these were published by his own imprint, so they were self-published. And I think they are just a gorgeous example of why you can't judge a book by its publisher. I have read 1,000 boring Page Street books, and I have read 3 phenomenal self-published books. So it really comes down to the creator and the creator's heart and what the creator is looking to do. So please don't let something being a self-published project or a passion project deter you from giving it a fair shot. Some creators, and I'm speaking about myself here, are just super picky and want things done a particular way and are tired of waiting on conventional publishing to catch up with them. So it could just be that somebody wants to do something that is different from the status quo, and publishers are very, very adverse from taking detours from the status quo. So if you're looking for something different, these are something different. I highly recommend them. I also really enjoyed his collaboration with Da Vinci. I mean, I'm not surprised. I love Da Vinci watercolors. They make very high quality, professional grade watercolors here in the US. I enjoyed the color selection. It is bright, it is fun, it is poppy, it is different from what I would pick, so it really kind of got me out of my comfort zone. And with some caveats, I really enjoyed participating in the daily prompts of World Watercolor Month. I am still going to be participating in World Watercolor Month. I'm still going to be sharing resources and tutorials and other things over all my socials, Blue Sky, Facebook, and Threads, as well as to the community tab. And I'm of course going to be painting, but the problem is I do watercolor all the time. I'm reviewing art supplies, I'm preparing for classes, I'm painting larger watercolor illustrations. I have limited space and limited time, and I just could not figure out a way to carve out the room and the time to do this without it causing stress for me. I have a problem when it comes to art challenges. This is a problem I have known about for decades. Not decades, what? Almost. We're almost getting there. At least a decade I've known about it because I did Inktober, and I call it October inking at this point. But I've done that for over 10 years now. And whenever I do a month-long art challenge, it stresses me out. Every year, it stresses me out. I end up worn out by the end of it. With My Inktober stuff, I come up with my own prompts. I use it to explore Lilliputian living and to tell stories set in the miniature world. So there's a very directed goal for that, and I'm writing my own prompts and my own ideas for that. So when I'm working on that, I take the month off as much as I can. I mean, I'm still teaching and I'm still creating classes and I'm probably still reviewing art supplies and I'm still releasing videos and I'm still taking care of my family. So maybe I'm not taking the month off, but basically the art that I make in October is centered around inked black and white art that I share every day. I didn't want to necessarily do that with World Watercolor Month for a lot of reasons. I kind of decided last minute that I wanted to participate in World Watercolor Month. I've got a family vacation that I'm going on, and then I am also going to visit a sick relative. Basically, we're still planning that, so it might be as soon as I get back. It might be a couple days after I get back, but you know, I just wasn't able to really swing it. Maybe if I had like written out my own prompt list and planned it ahead of time, I would have done all 30 days, 30, 31. I think July is a 31 day. I think it's July and August that are 31 day months. But anyway, I decided to kind of, as you guys heard, kind of cut it short for my own mental health, for my own physical well-being, and because I had other ideas that are very similar to this that I wanted to explore. So I did want to kind of jump off the path and give myself more time to work. But doing a monthly challenge can be a great way to finish something because other people are doing it with you. You see them working on it. You get excited about it. Back when the internet used to be more of a community, we would all encourage one another to do things. So there is still value in doing a challenge, and a lot of people are participating. World Watercolor Month is one of the really popular ones, and I don't think I talked about it too much in the video, but I do first of all, check out his blogs, both Doodlewash and sketching stuff, great resources, but also he does like watercolor supply giveaways throughout July, so it is well worth just watching and putting in for the giveaways. I will be honest, I've never won any of them. We don't have any kind of relationship. We don't know each other. We're not in correspondence. All opinions are my own. They are based on my own experiences, pursuing 2 formal art degrees, teaching art in a variety of settings for about 2 decades now, because I turned 40 recently and I first started student teaching around 19. It's been a really long time. And reviewing art supplies for over 10 years, making loads of comics. You know, I have my own experience to bring to the table for this. So all opinions are my own. He did not know I'm doing this. I did not contact him about it. And while I'm not like ashamed of anything that I said, I would stand by all of this. Let's be cool. This is a video created for the people who are purchasing or interested in purchasing these products. This is not necessarily a video for Charlie O necessarily. I know firsthand as an ADHD person who suffers from rejection sensitivity dysphoria that receiving an unsolicited critique when I'm not looking for it, even if everything else is overwhelmingly very positive, can sometimes have a really bad impact on my day. I'm great at solicited critique when I'm expecting it and I'm taking my notes and I'm in that mindset, but when it comes out of the blue, it can be harder to deal with. So even though I have said overwhelmingly positive things in this review, let's be chill. Like, let's not just like send it to him. Because I would hate for it to just like catch him off guard and ruin his day. So like the same rules that apply to regular prose book reviews still apply here. If he happens to find it though, hi Charlie, thank you for your fantastic books. I really enjoyed reading them. I look forward to sharing what I have learned with some of my students. I think these are great resources and I'm super excited to be able to recommend them because I think they're gonna make a positive impact in people's lives. And I don't see that often enough when it comes to art books. So, but anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope it was helpful, useful, and informative. I really did enjoy it, even if I ended up stressing myself out. That's my own fault. I sincerely hope that this came just in time for you. You can always start World Watercolor Month mid-month if you want to. You can change up the challenge to suit you. There is no perfect way to do anything. We are all artists and we're all creative here. So if you're inspired to try World Watercolor Month, that is fantastic. I'll have links for you guys down in the description below, but it's pretty easy to find. I hope this was helpful, useful, and informative for you guys. And I hope that this easily influenced helps you guys make art a habit. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. If you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a thumbs up. That tells YouTube to share this with more people. It tells YouTube that, hey, people care about this. And if you like what I do here, please consider subscribing. I have been on YouTube as a creator making art resources for 14 years now, and I hit 25,000 subscribers sometime last year. Thank you guys so much. But my big goal would be to hit 100K. I think we can do it, and you guys can help make it possible. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Bye, guys.